This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by heavyweight Fabio Wardley over Zoom. Fabio, how are you doing? How's things?
I'm good. How's things, mate? How are we?
All good, mate. It's good to catch up once again. You're back out. You're back at Fight Camp, the return of Fight Camp. How excited are you to have another date to work towards on the back of a Molina victory?
Yeah, buzzing. Like I said, we've been speaking to the team, speaking to Ed and stuff, trying to get a date sorted and trying to get out. And obviously, there's been some things to manoeuvre in the time being. So yeah, it's great to just have an objective, have a way to point, kind of know where you're going with things. Like it's always training and that, but it's always difficult when you don't know how hard to go, how much to push yourself and stuff when you don't have a specific date. So now we know it's full steam ahead.
People have struggled throughout the pandemic to just get a date, at least one day. Fabio, you've been out a few times now. How key could this period of your career actually be when you reflect on it, when things return back to normal? Because you've been in the eye of those who tune in, those who watch throughout this entire, 15, 16 months so far?
Yeah, no, it's been a massive period for me, and they've all been my biggest fights. Like they've all, like, back at Fight Camp itself was last year was the first one back, and that was the first title fight for me against Simon, so that was a big one. And then going again against Richard, who was a good opponent, that was a big fight. And then obviously the step up with Molina, again, big fight and a big occasion as well, with it being Gibraltar. So for this period of time, I've done, like, I've always been extremely grateful and extremely thankful, but I've done really well out of it. I've been able to stay busy. I've been able to stay as consistent as I wanted to and just stay on track, really. Like, I'm fortunate enough to say this whole thing hasn't really derailed me too much, or really at all, in terms of my career and stuff. So yeah, it's been good.
Would you say it's benefited you more? So do you think you've actually received maybe more opportunities in the pandemic than what you may have done if it wasn't for this period? Or do you think that's wrong of me to say?
Possibly not. I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because how do you ever know?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, how do I know what? Because I know what plans we had in place before the pandemic and stuff, so I knew what we were looking at. So I haven't drifted off too far a line anyway, really, in terms of what we already had in place. I think if anything, it made it a bit harder. It made everything a bit harder because it was harder to find opponents, because people weren't training, because they weren't in camp, and they were saying they weren't ready and things like that. So it was a difficult period of time that not just me, but all of us kind of had to maneuver our way through. So not necessarily. I think I've just made the most out of everything that's been put in front of me. And obviously thank you to Eddie and Dylan and stuff for being able to put me on those shows and stuff.
Fabio, you said it's been difficult to find opponents. You haven't got an official opponent yet for your next outing. Have you got any kind of insight or inkling as to who it may be? Any names been thrown about?
Mate, it's one name one day, it's no name the next. They call and ask me and I say yes, and I get a call back and then they say, actually, no, they don't want to do it now. It's just, I'm at the point where I'm getting to the end, like, I'm like Mr. Nice Fab's going out the window a bit now. I'm getting, like, fed up with it. I'm going to start having to shout my mouth off and have a word with some people when I see them and stuff, because like, it's tiresome. It's tiresome to just, like, I'm here trying to be a better fighter, put myself in good fights, put myself in hard fights, challenge myself, test myself, and people are just like, nope, don't want to do it, They don't want to risk it. They don't want to just, and I'm like, it makes me sit and wonder, like, what are you here for? Like, what game are you playing exactly? What are we doing? Like, are we here to be better boxers? Are we here to challenge ourselves? Are we here to put on good shows, good fights, or whatever? Or are we not? And if not, like, drop out, go somewhere else, take it somewhere else. Like, it pisses me off, and I get wound up about it, because I know for months and months we've been trying to figure a new opponent, and some will say yes, and then they'll say no, and they'll want this demand, they'll want that demand, and I just think, like, either you want it or you don't. Like, it's that simple, I think, and a lot of people overcomplicate the situation and make more of it than needs to be.
Fabio, have you got anybody in particular who you would like to face then?
I think the most ideal fight at the moment was the Nick Webb fight. I think it was. I think that was the one that everyone looked at. We both fought on the same card, both come off with good wins, and that was the one that everyone was putting together. I think if the British title was available, we could have stuck that on the line as well, or just something, or we could have found some belt somewhere to do something with, or whatever. But I think that was the most obvious one to make. But again, same thing of, oh, I don't want to fight him. I don't want to do this, or I want to do this first. Like you heard Ed say the other week that he'd been trying to sort Nick Webb out to get on the Newcastle show, and he couldn't get him on for one reason or another. Like, I know the backstory. I know what they were talking about in behind the scenes. I know what fight he got offered. He said it was too much of a risk. Like, they offered him a journeyman, and he said it was too much of a risk, and he didn't want to do it. Like, I'm not like, some of us aren't here to play games. Some of us are. Someone like Nick apparently wants to drag his career out as long as he can, or dodge certain fighters. Like, he's the same thing with Babich as well. Like, he's had the same kind of back and forth with Babich that they've talked about the fight, and then he's come up with one reason or another where he doesn't want it, or he says he wants it later down the line, or whatever. Like, it's excuse after excuse. Either you're in or you're out. Either we're here to box and we're here to play the game, or we're not. And if you're not, then fuck off. Go somewhere else with it. Don't hang about and pretend like you want this and you want that. When it's offered to you, it's put into you blatant. Ed's put it to you. Dill's put it to you. My team's put it to you. We've tried to accommodate whatever little needs you want in that. And still there's some little excuse, some little reason why you don't want it. So just take yourself elsewhere. Don't bother the real people in the game that want to actually challenge themselves.
Fabio, you've mentioned before a desire to challenge for that British title. Obviously, that's currently held by Joyce. Are you still in that mindset, or not necessarily mindset, but would it be better for you to just have some clarity on that if Joe was to vacate, and to see what the British Boxing Board of Control were to do with regards to if they were to maybe make you a mandatory to face one of your other top contenders in Britain? Is that something which you feel you would like to happen now?
Yeah, obviously in an ideal world, Joe would drop the belt, move forward with his career, and I'd be one of the front runners to pick it up and challenge against whoever else they pick as the next kind of contender for that. That's an ideal world, but I think we've learned a lot through this pandemic that you can't just wait on other people and try and plan your career around someone else. Like, if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. We go on the basis that it's not there at the moment, and we move forward in whatever direction we can with whatever fights are available. And if there's some other belt available at the moment that we can go for, whatever, then go for that. Great. The thing is with Joe is that he's done so well that he's holding on to about 3 of them, which usually if you can't go for the British, you'll go for the European, or if you can't go for that, you go for the Commonwealth, or you'll build yourself in a certain direction. But he's doing so well that he's fucking holding on to all of them. So it kind of leaves the rest of us sitting behind him a little bit stuck, which is his right at the end of the day. He won them belts. He can do what he wants with them. They're his to own and do what he pleases. But that's where it just leaves a bit of a gap with me and a few other fighters as well who are looking to kind of move forward. They want to get that extra kind of tick off the list of that extra bit of silverware, but they can't at the moment. So in between time, let's just have some decent fights. Like, let's just put ourselves in some good scraps. But some want to and some don't.
Fabio, one name I'm going to bring up because I've seen him continue
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to
call
hear
you
it.
out over social media. He recently fought. He recently was stopped in that fight early on. Christopher Lovejoy. Just your thoughts on his continued pursuit of a bout against yourself.
To be honest, I think I only have myself to blame because I sometimes on Twitter I have a bit of fun and I decide that, like, I'm just in the evening, I'm just going to entertain myself with a bit of kind of online back and forth with someone. And one evening I picked Lovejoy or whatever, and I had a little back and forth with him, and now he fucking won't shut up about it. Now he keeps going on, and every other week I get a tweet from him about I'm running and he's not letting me off the hook and all of this. But like, I have no interest. It's bollocks. Like, when the whole him and Dave thing came around, we was all kind of suspicious and suspect of his abilities and where he actually was, of like, all of this fights being in Mexico and what actual ability he had. I think it was very obvious in the Char fight that he has little to no ability. And that doesn't do me any good. Like, great, I could fight him, and I think he's still pretty well ranked. And great, I'd get through him in a round or two, and I'd get my hand raised, and yeah, all fun and games. But for me as a boxer, and me as my career, what does it really do? Nothing. Not really anything. It's not worth doing. It's fun for a Saturday night Twitter back and forth, and to poke jabs and have a little go with it. But other than that, he's not useful for much else.
Fabio, just your thoughts before I let you go on a few other fights coming up in heavyweight division. Two of them on your card. Firstly, Alan Babich, somebody you know well, versus Mark Bennett. Your thoughts on that one, the next outing for Alan after his most recent victory of his past weekend?
Yeah, good. It's good. It's a good fight. It's a good time of. I think Bennett's 7-1, something like that. So I think they're both around 7 or something like that. So they both had quite, like, obviously Bennett's had quite a few wins. I think his only losses was in the that kind of like boxer series thing that Nick won. So he's done well. He's been around the block. I've actually sparred Mark a few times as well. And I know he's half decent. So I think it'll be a half decent test for Babich, but I think for the same thing, you're going to get the same outcome with him. I think it goes 2 or 3, if that, and it'll get him out in the same fashion that he's been getting everyone out of.
Fabio, I know you know him well, and you'll have a good relationship with him, both under that, Dillian White management stable. But
Yeah,
people always kind of mention, where can Alan's career go? He's fun, he's exciting, he brings everything he can, the fire to fight. But people still want to kind of see how far he can go. From your opinion, how far can the career of Alan Babich go with that style that he possesses?
he can go far. There is a lot you can do with it, and like he may run into some difficult times with some bigger opponents and stuff and whatever else, but that doesn't mean like he's over. He's the end of. I think like a prime example is someone like Derek Chisora, that as long as you're entertaining, as long as you're doing your thing for the fans, as long as you're all the fans, as much as obviously it's great to have perfect records and whatever else, all the fans really want from you is that full commitment, and they want that entertainment. And Babich, better than anyone I've seen in recent times, brings that, not just in the ring, but outside the ring and social media and everything he does is just, and that's him as well. Like the the geezer's a madman. Like I woke up the other morning at about 7:30 in the morning. I had about 5 voice notes from him talking about like Valhalla and the gods of war, and now he's just coming to destroy everything. And I'm like, mate, it's 7:30 in the morning. I've not even had my breakfast. Like, what are we doing here? What's going on? Like, but that's genuinely him, and I love it, and the fans love it. So he will have a long time in the sport. He will have a long time in the sport.
And then Fabio, just moving forwards once again, we spoke about him briefly earlier. Joyce, Carlos Takam, his next opponent. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good. Really good fight, to be honest. Really good fight. Both very come forward fighters. Both got really good engines as well. And Takam will be a little bit different to kind of what Joe's had in the past, with someone who's a little bit shorter, fights a little bit lower, and just really comes forward and really sticks it on you. So it'll be a different kind of test for Joe. I still think he'll get through relatively okay. But I think it will still be a great matchup. I think it'll be a good one to watch, because neither of them really have a backward step in them. Like, so they're just going to go at it and get stuck in. And you know what you get when you watch Joe, it's just continuous. And the same thing with Takam, he always brings the heat, and he's competed at a high level. So you won't be in awe of Joe at all. We'll be ready to come in and stick it on him, because he knows that that's his chance.
Moving forwards once again, we've seen the recent Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury trilogy press conference. They had a face-off, which was the best part of around 6 minutes long. Just want to get your thoughts on that, and also on Deontay's quiet approach, shall we say. He wasn't very talkative throughout the press conference. What would you put that down to? Would you put it down to him maybe looking just to change his complete attitude towards his fight, looking to just go under the radar, or has Tyson gotten underneath his skin where he feels like he needs to change who he is?
I think Malik's been in his ear, to be honest. I think it's Malik has got in his ear and said, look, this is how we're going to do this one. Because I know Malik. I spent a lot of time with him when the first time I went to Ukraine. He was the only person within however many miles of me that spoke English or whatever. So I was with him for weeks, and we got on well. So I know him, and I know his kind of mentality and how he is, and I know how his approach towards this fight will be. He will have said to Wilder, he said, look, we're not playing these games, we're not doing this back and forth anymore. He's basically, what he will have said is, we're not wasting any unnecessary energy anymore. What we're doing is we're focusing on the fight, we're focusing on the game plan, and everything we do will be about that. That's where I think it comes from. I think without Malik, you still get the same Wilder who's loud, who's brazen, who will call Fury a cheat and say he was robbed and blah, 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 blah. I think Malik is in his ear and said, no, this is how we're going to do it this time, and we're going to do it differently.
From your opinion, then, and from your time with Malik Scott, Fabio, what do you make of his link up with Deontay Wilder?
It's an interesting one, a very interesting one. It's the type of, like, it is the type of link up that Wilder needed, because he needed someone who was going to give him more variety into his game. He was very one-dimensional, and he needed someone with a boxing brain, and two, that could move Wilder into a direction where he fights a bit differently. He has a few other kind of weapons in his arsenal, and Malik does have that. But the only thing with Malik is the massive question marks that he's unproven. Like, he hasn't coached anyone in the past, and this is his first kind of crack at it. So it's a big stage for him to kind of announce himself on, to be that kind of coach and that go-to for. So I think it is good, but there's just obviously question marks over Malik and how it's actually going to turn out. And as well, question marks over Wilder is can you teach an old dog new tricks kind of thing? Is that, can you at this stage of his career get him to adjust enough and on such a short time frame to deal with Fury? But I guess we'll see on the night.
Right, Fabio, just before I let you go, as I like to do with everyone, final word from yourself for your fans, your followers, everybody who will continue to support you ahead of your next outing. What would you like to say to them?
I would like to say, tune in, July 7th, Fight Camp 2.0, the return. I'm one of the few people that gets to go back for a second time. And no matter the opponent, no matter the event, no matter what's going on, I will bring the fireworks, and I will bring entertainment. So tune in and check it out.
I would like to make sure people do not tune in on July 7th and they tune in on August 7th.
Or that one. You can tune in on July 7th. I'll find something. I'll do a live or something. I'll figure something out. Or we'll do August, though. August is probably better. Ed's not going to change the whole show around me. Probably not.
Fabio, listen, I appreciate your time once again. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
No worries. Cheers. Thank you.